about it? This is Crazy10, and I wanted to do something a little bit different for a video today, other than like packages and pickups and stuff like that. I wanted to actually do a top 5 video. Now, this is going to be very unorthodox, and as you can probably tell by the title already, it's going to be my top 5 most favorite controllers. Now, it's kind of weird, but I like the really strange aspects of gaming. I'm really into the Game Boy, the portable games, and I really like controllers. Now, I don't have an extremely extensive collection of controllers, although I would like to. There are plenty of controllers out there that I want to have, it's just that I don't have the money to be pursuing that at this point with me pursuing the full Game Boy collection. But out of the ones that I own already, I just wanted to show you guys my current favorite top 5. Now, this is always changing, and the numbering for the 5 to 3 is kind of just whatever. They're not necessarily in any order, but I put them in an order just in order to actually make something like a top 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Now, my number 5 favorite controller isn't necessarily my favorite because it feels the best, but just because of the level of innovation associated with it. I'm sorry. And that is the N64 controller. Now, again, if you watched any of my old videos, you remember I got this. This was like my first controller that I owned and that I was the only one who used. Now, I mean, this controller was great because when I got it, I was younger and my hands fit this a lot better. It's still not too bad because my hands are kind of small. My palms are big, but my fingers are small, so I can hold it fairly well. But I think that there are some severe limitations, especially with the emerging first-person shooter genre and some other, the lack of 2 joysticks really kills it. I mean, it's still a great controller, don't get me wrong, but I think my favorite part about this controller is this port here, because, I mean, first of all, you had memory cards, which was a huge deal back then. Memory cards just, like, completely revolutionized gaming, because now everything has either memory card or a hard drive, and everything relies on saves, not actually on the media, and with disk media you can't have saves on there, obviously. So this was a really big deal. I actually, this is the one that I got originally when we were actually playing the console, like as a current console, and I got this one in a package. You can see that later. And there was also all kinds of other stuff. You had your Tremor pack, which is just a rumble, and you had your Pokemon transfer pack. Now, I always thought it was fun to put the transfer pack in the rumble pack and then put the rumble pack in the controller, and it just looks ridiculous. This is why I love the N64 controller so much. It's just great. The second controller, this is actually from a system that I didn't own as a kid and I picked up since I started gaming, and that is the Dreamcast Controller. Now, part of the reason why I like the Dreamcast Controller is because of the VMUs. These took memory cards just the next step further and just made everything so much more unique and quirky, and I think this adds a huge amount of personality to the system. Besides that, the analog stick, not bad. It could use a rubber topping. This D-pad is pretty good. I like the D-pad. The buttons are good and mushy, but they don't feel like too mushy. Start button's okay. And the triggers. These are pretty revolutionary too. I mean, you had the PlayStation 1 controller and the Dualshock 1 controller had triggers, but they weren't necessarily just quite like this. This is the first controller that I'm aware of that has this trigger design, and I really like it. So all of that just really earns this my top 4. And there's also additional pack. You could put the C-Man mic in there. You could do all kinds of stuff. So just all the cool stuff about this controller puts it at number 4. Now, the top 3 I would say is pretty much definite, and all of these I have solid reasons for. Those are just kind of like the crazy controllers that I love because they're crazy. And my number 3 controller would be the Super Nintendo controller. This controller, even though it's simple, even though there's not a whole lot going on, this is one of the best made controllers, especially out of the retro scene, and it's so simple, it just works perfectly. The build quality is amazing. It feels perfect in my hands. Just the dog bone rounding, it fits perfectly in my hands, and every finger just lines up exactly where it should. You don't have to stretch or reach for anything, and it's just a good, solid, simple but effective controller. And this, I love playing Super Nintendo games just because I love using the controller, besides the fact that there are so many good ones on the system. The controller actually gets me to play the system more, which is kind of funny, but really enjoy this. Number 2, if you watched my previous video, you will know what this is, and this is the Wavebird. Well, Gamecube controller, specifically the Wavebird. The Gamecube controller itself is a fine controller. I enjoy it. It feels good, looks crazy, but you realize that I have a thing for crazy controllers. It looks crazy, but it really is extremely comfortable. These buttons are really cool, the shoulder buttons, in that they're analog buttons, and it can register varying degrees of pressing, and then there's a click at the end. That's a digital. It's just similar to an analog stick that you can click, and it gives you a very good degree of control. And then you've got the familiar A, B, X, Y, and Z buttons. Your really nice control pad, even though it's a little small, I prefer it to be a bit bigger. The C stick, which I think is a great idea to change the C buttons into a stick. I think that was a brilliant move. And this really, really nice analog stick. Everything on this is extremely well made. The fact that it's wireless and it's extremely reliable wireless. You have 20 channels. You can play up to 16. I would think you could play up to 20 people simultaneously nearby, but because there's 20 channels, but apparently you can only do 16. And battery life is great. It's an all-around fantastic controller, and I really, really enjoy the GameCube controller, especially the Wavebird. And if you own a GameCube, you really need to get your hands on a Wavebird because it's just so convenient, and it's so worth your money. Even if you have to pay the $15, $17, $18 that GameStop charges, which is outrageous, you will get much more enjoyment out of your GameCube as a result of buying this, I think. The only downside, there's no rumble. That brings me to my number 1 pick, and that is the Dualshock series. I don't own a Dualshock 1, but I do own a Dualshock 2 and a Dualshock 3. And now out of the Dualshock series, Dualshock 3 is my favorite. Obviously, it's the same feel, same style, same everything, but it's wireless, and it has the rumble now. Now, I've heard a lot of people complain about battery life, but honestly, I get like 20 plus hours battery life on a single charge, which is a lot better than what other people are claiming. The analog sticks fit perfectly in my hands. The level of the degree of movement is far superior to that of the Xbox 360. The analog sticks on the Xbox 360 are okay, but there's much more of a range of motion on the DualShock. The click obviously is a nice bonus. I do like the trigger design. A lot of people don't like that they changed this to an actual trigger. I find this to be very comfortable and convenient. Charging through USB is always a plus. And I mean, it's a simple and effective design. Now, I enjoyed the PS2 is probably my favorite system of all time. I would probably be able to argue my way into making anyone believe that the PS2 is my favorite system and one of the best systems ever made. And so I really took a liking to the PS2 controller, the DualShock 2. And when the PS3 came out, this was just wireless version of the PS2 controller, and it just made so much sense to go for. So I really just love this controller. I could talk about it all day. My hands fit absolutely perfectly, and it's a pleasure to play on the PlayStation, any of the PlayStation consoles, because of the controller. Similar to the Super Nintendo controller, but I think not quite the same, although this is even better build quality. So I hope you enjoyed my very haphazard and kind of just crazy off-the-wall video idea. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, where I make a top 5, a top 10, whatever, please let me know in the comments. I'm always open to suggestions for video ideas and everything like that. And I also want to say a huge thank you to SNEStastic for the video that he made. The Peacekeepers game that some of you may have seen that I got in the mail, I shipped it over to Pete and it arrived a couple days ago. And he made a huge unboxing video for it, and I think about 10 or 11 or 12 subscribers came over after seeing that video. So I want to say a huge thanks to everyone who came over, and I want to say a huge thanks to everyone who has continued to support my channel and everything like that. So again, let me know if you like this. Let me know if you want to see more of this. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in a couple of days with a new video.